Sign the papers, Aria. You've wasted enough of my time.
Alpha Kieran's voice was ice, each word a blade slicing through what remained of her heart. Aria stood in the center of their bedroom, the room where she'd given herself to him body and soul for 5 years, and stared at the divorce decree on the bed. Her hands trembled as she picked up the document, the official pack seal burning her eyes. "Kieran, please. We can try again." The healer said there's still a chance there is no chance. He cut her off, his gray eyes cold and distant, looking at her like she was a stranger. Like she was nothing. "You're Barren, Aria. 5 years. 5 years of failure. The pack needs an heir. I need an heir. You cannot give me that." The word Barren hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled back, her wolf whimpering inside her, wounded and broken. "I'm your mate," she whispered, hating how small her voice sounded. "The moon goddess herself bonded us. You felt it. I know you felt it." The moon goddess made a mistake. Kieran's jaw tightened. He turned away from her, looking out the window at the pack grounds below. "I've already chosen my new Luna. Someone who can actually fulfill her duties." The room spun. Aria gripped the bedpost to steady herself. "What? Who?" The door opened. Aria didn't need to turn around to know who it was. The sickly sweet scent of jasmine perfume flooded the room, the same scent that had been clinging to Kieran's clothes for months. "Surprise, sister." Melissa's voice was honey-coated venom. Aria turned slowly. Her younger sister stood in the doorway wearing a red dress that left little to the imagination, her hand resting on her flat stomach in a gesture that was too deliberate to be casual. "No," Aria breathed. "Tell me you didn't." Melissa smiled, walking into the room with the confidence of someone who had already won. "Oh, but I did. And unlike you, my womb isn't a graveyard." She stopped in front of Kieran, pressing herself against his side. "Tell her, baby. Tell her about our little miracle." Kieran's hand moved to Melissa's stomach, possessive and proud. "Melissa is carrying my pup. The pack doctor confirmed it this morning. We'll be mated under the new moon." The betrayal was so complete, so total, that Aria couldn't even cry. She just stared, her mind unable to process the horror. "How long?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "How long have you been sleeping with my sister? Does it matter?" Melissa laughed, the sound grating and cruel. 6 months, if you must know. Though honestly, Aria, you made it so easy. All those nights you spent crying in the healer's chambers, all those hours you spent praying to the moon goddess, I was here, giving Kieran what you never could. Pleasure. Passion. And now an heir." Aria's wolf rose up, furious and hurting, demanding blood. For a moment, her eyes flashed gold, her canines extending. Melissa stepped back, fear flickering across her face. "Don't." Kieran's command slammed into Aria like a truck, the alpha authority in his voice forcing her wolf into submission. She gasped, falling to her knees, the pain of fighting his command making her entire body seize. "You will not threaten your future, Luna," Kieran said coldly, standing over her. "You will sign those papers, pack your things, and leave the territory by dawn. If you refuse, I will have you removed by force." Aria looked up at him through tears she refused to let fall. This was the man she'd loved since she was 16. The man she'd given everything to. The man who had whispered promises of forever under the full moon. "What happened to you?" she whispered. "What happened to the man who said he'd love me until his last breath?" "He woke up," Kieran said simply. He realized he was shackled to a defective mate who couldn't perform the one job a Luna has. "Now sign the damn papers." Defective. The word echoed in her mind, joining barren and failure and worthless. Aria reached for the pen on the bed. Her hand shook so badly she could barely hold it. "That's it," Melissa cooed, crouching down beside her. "Be a good girl and accept your place. You were never strong enough to be Luna anyway. You're too soft, too weak, too broken. I'm doing the pack a favor." Aria signed her name. The moment the pen left the paper, she felt it. The mate bond, that golden thread that had connected her to Kieran for 5 years, snapped. The pain was indescribable, like someone had reached into her chest and ripped out half her soul. She screamed, collapsing on the floor, her body convulsing as the bond tore away. Kieran didn't even flinch. He picked up the papers, scanning them with satisfaction. "You have until dawn," he repeated. "If you're still here when the sun rises, I'll have the guards drag you to the border." Then he walked out, Melissa at his side, her laughter echoing down the hallway. Aria lay on the floor of the room she'd called home, shaking and broken, her wolf howling in agony inside her. She didn't know how long she stayed there. Hours maybe. When she finally pulled herself up, the room was dark, lit only by the moon streaming through the window. She packed mechanically. Clothes. A few photographs. The necklace her mother had given her before she died. Everything else, the life she'd built, the future she'd dreamed of, she left behind. As she walked through the pack house for the last time, she passed pack members who wouldn't meet her eyes. They knew. Of course they knew. In a pack, secrets didn't exist for long. She heard the whispers as she passed. "Poor thing. I heard she's completely barren." The Alpha had no choice. "Melissa will make a much better Luna." Aria kept walking, her head high even as her heart shattered with every step. She reached the border just as the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon. She turned back one last time, looking at the territory that had been her home for 5 years. Then she crossed the line and kept walking. She walked for hours, days, her wolf too broken to shift, her body running on nothing but spite and survival instinct. She collapsed finally in a forest she didn't recognize, her body giving out. "This is it," she thought. "This is where I die." "Not yet, little wolf." The voice was deep, ancient, and came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Aria forced her eyes open. Standing over her was the largest wolf she'd ever seen, easily twice the size of any alpha. His fur was silver white, his eyes a brilliant amber that seemed to glow in the darkness. "What are you?" she whispered. The wolf shifted. In its place stood a man, tall and powerfully built, with silver hair and those same amber eyes. He wore clothes that seemed woven from moonlight itself. "I am Darius," he said, kneeling beside her. "King of the Lycan realm. And you, little wolf, are far too valuable to die in a forest." "Valuable?" Aria laughed bitterly. "I'm worthless. I'm broken. I'm barren." "Is that what they told you?" Darius's eyes flashed with anger. "Let me guess. Wolf healers? Pack doctors trained in outdated traditions." He placed a hand on her stomach, and Aria felt a warmth spread through her, soothing and strange. Darius's eyes widened. Then he started laughing. "Oh, little wolf. You are many things, but barren is not one of them." Aria's heart stopped. "What?" "You're not barren," Darius said, his smile wolfish. "You're pregnant. And unless I'm very much mistaken, you're carrying twins." If you're loving Aria's journey already, kindly hit that like and subscribe button because this story is about to get wild. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when Kieran finds out what he threw away. The world stopped. Aria stared at Darius, certain she'd misheard, certain her grief-broken mind was playing tricks on her. "That's not possible," she whispered. "I've been tested. Multiple times. The pack healers, they all said, your pack healers are idiots." Darius's voice was matter-of-fact, no sympathy, just cold truth. "They were looking for a standard wolf pregnancy. You, little one, are carrying something far more powerful." He helped her sit up, his hand still resting on her stomach. The warmth intensified, and Aria felt it then, a flutter, a presence, 2 tiny sparks of life that she'd somehow missed. "How?" Tears streamed down her face, but for the first time in years, they weren't tears of despair. "How's this possible? Kieran and I tried for 5 years, and you finally succeeded." Darius's eyes gleamed. "I'd estimate you're about 6 weeks along. Which means your beloved Alpha rejected you while you were already carrying his heirs." The irony was so cruel, so perfectly devastating, that Aria started laughing. It was a broken, hysterical sound that turned into sobs. "He threw me away. He chose my sister. And I was already pregnant." "Men are fools," Darius said simply. "Especially alphas who think their pride matters more than their mates." He stood, offering her his hand. "Come. You need medical attention, food, and rest. The Lycan realm is 3 days north. You'll be safe there. Aria looked at his hand, then up at his face. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. I know enough. Darius's expression softened slightly. I know you're a wolf who's been thrown away by people too blind to see your worth. I know you're carrying pups who deserve better than to be born in a forest. And I know that something brought me to this exact spot at this exact time. I don't question the moon goddess's will. Aria took his hand. His grip was strong, steady, everything Kieran's had never truly been. What do you want in return? Smart girl. Darius smiled approvingly. I want you to survive. I want those pups to be born healthy and strong. And when the time comes, I want you to show that pathetic excuse for an alpha exactly what he lost. Something fierce and dark flickered in Aria's chest. I can do that. Good. Darius lifted her easily into his arms. Now sleep. When you wake, you'll be in a place where your worth is measured by your strength, not your ability to breed on command. Aria wanted to protest, to say she could walk, but exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. The last thing she remembered was the rhythmic sound of Darius running, faster than any wolf she'd ever known, and the strange comfort of being held by someone who saw her as more than a broken vessel. She woke in a bed so soft it felt like sleeping on clouds. The room around her was unlike anything she'd ever seen, carved from white stone that seemed to glow with its own inner light. Tapestries depicting wolves and moons covered the walls, and through the massive window, she could see mountains capped with eternal snow. You're awake. A woman's voice, warm and maternal, came from the doorway. Aria turned to see an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes entering with a tray of food. I'm Alara, the royal healer. King Darius asked me to check on you. Where am I? Aria asked, though she already knew. The Lycan palace, Alara confirmed, setting the tray on the bedside table. You've been asleep for 2 days. Your body needed the rest. She gestured to Aria's stomach. May I? Aria nodded, pulling back the silk sheets. She was wearing a soft nightgown. Someone had cleaned her and dressed her while she slept. Alara's hands glowed with a soft golden light as she examined Aria's abdomen. The healer's eyes widened, then she smiled, genuine joy lighting up her face. Oh my dear. These are strong pups. Very strong. I can already sense they're wolves. They're really there? Aria's voice cracked. I'm really pregnant? You are absolutely, undeniably pregnant with healthy twin pups, Alara confirmed. She sat on the edge of the bed, taking Aria's hand. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did anyone in your pack ever physically examine you, or did they rely solely on blood tests and scrying? Aria thought back. Just blood tests. And the scrying stones. Why? Because a physical examination would have revealed the truth immediately. Alara's expression darkened. You have what we call a veiled womb. It's rare, occurring in maybe 1 in 10,000 wolves. Your body naturally shields the pregnancy from magical detection for the first trimester. It's an evolutionary protection, likely inherited from an ancient bloodline. The words sank in slowly. So I was never barren. Never, Alara said firmly. Your pack healers were simply too incompetent to consider alternatives. They saw negative test results and jumped to conclusions. Aria felt something break open inside her, 5 years of shame and self-loathing cracking apart. I let them make me feel broken. I believed them when they said I was defective. You believed the people you trusted, Alara corrected gently. That's not weakness. That's what pack is supposed to be. She squeezed Aria's hand. But now you know the truth. You are whole. You are strong. And you are going to be a mother. The tears came then, unstoppable and cleansing. Alara held her while she cried, letting out 5 years of pain and grief and self-hatred. When the tears finally subsided, Aria felt lighter, like she'd shed a skin she'd been trapped in. What happens now? She asked. Now you rest, you eat, and you let us take care of you, Alara said, standing and bringing over the tray. King Darius has declared you under royal protection. No one will harm you here. Why is he being so kind? Aria accepted a bowl of soup, the smell making her stomach growl. She realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. You'll have to ask him that yourself, Alara said with a mysterious smile. But between you and me, The king has always had a soft spot for strays. He himself was abandoned as a pup, left to die because he was born during an eclipse. Some ancient superstition about cursed children. But he became king, Aria said. He became the most powerful Lycan in existence, Alara corrected. He clawed his way up from nothing, proved everyone who doubted him wrong, and built a kingdom where strength and loyalty matter more than bloodlines and prophecies. She headed for the door, then paused. Rest well, Aria. Tomorrow, if you're feeling strong enough, the king would like to speak with you about your future. After Alara left, Aria ate everything on the tray, her body desperate for nourishment. Then she walked to the window, looking out at the Lycan kingdom spread below. It was beautiful, wild, and untamed, so different from the rigid structure of her old pack. She placed her hands on her stomach, feeling the slight curve that was already forming. I don't know what happens next, she whispered to the pups growing inside her. I don't know how I'm going to do this alone. But I promise you, I will never let anyone make you feel worthless. I will never let anyone tell you you're not enough. A knock came at the door. Come in, Aria called, expecting Alara. Instead, Darius entered, dressed in simple black clothing that somehow made him look more intimidating than any royal regalia could. You're looking better, he observed. Color in your cheeks. Fire in your eyes. Good. Thank you, Aria said, meaning it. For saving me. For bringing me here. For telling me the truth. Don't thank me yet. Darius moved to stand beside her at the window. I didn't just save you out of kindness, Aria. I have a proposal for you. Aria's heart sank. Here it comes, she thought. The real price. What kind of proposal? Darius turned to face her, his amber eyes intense and calculating. Marry me. Aria stared at Darius, certain she'd misheard. Excuse me. Marry me, Darius repeated, his tone casual, as if he were discussing the weather rather than proposing marriage to a woman he'd known for 2 days. Become my queen. Let me claim your pups as my own. You're insane, Aria said flatly. I just escaped one nightmare marriage. Why would I jump into another? Because this wouldn't be a real marriage, Darius clarified. He crossed his arms, leaning against the window frame. It would be a political arrangement. Mutually beneficial. Beneficial how? Aria's mind raced, trying to understand his angle. There had to be a catch. There was always a catch. Darius was quiet for a moment, his gaze drifting to the kingdom below. I've been king of the Lycans for over a century, Aria. In all that time, I've never taken a queen because I refuse to mate for politics. But the council is getting restless. They want heirs. They want stability. They want me to choose a mate from one of the noble bloodlines and produce the next generation. So you will use me as a shield, Aria said, understanding dawning. Let them think you've found your mate. Give them heirs to satisfy them, and you get to avoid their matchmaking. Precisely. Darius smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And in return, you get protection, resources, and legitimacy for your pups. No one would dare question the paternity of the Lycan king's children. No one would dare call them bastards or treat them as less than. Aria's hand instinctively moved to her stomach. He was right. If she tried to raise Kieran's pups alone, they would always carry the stigma of being rejected, of being born to a banished wolf. But as the acknowledged children of a Lycan king, they would be untouchable. What about when they're born? She asked carefully. What happens when it's obvious they're not Lycan? They'll have wolf traits, not Lycan ones. Let me worry about that, Darius said. I have ways of explaining it. Ancient bloodline mixing, recessive genes, the moon goddess's mysterious ways. People believe what they want to believe, especially when questioning it would mean challenging their king. And us? Aria asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What would you expect from me? Darius met her eyes, and for the first time, she saw something vulnerable in them. Nothing you don't want to give. Separate chambers. Separate lives. We appear together for official functions. We play the part of devoted mates in public, and in private, we leave each other alone. He pushed off the window frame, moving closer. I won't touch you, Aria. I won't force you into my bed or demand wifely duties. This is a contract, nothing more. You get safety and status. I get political peace. For how long? Until the pups are grown, Darius said. 18 years, give or take. Then we can quietly dissolve the bond, claim we grew apart, and you'll be free to leave with enough wealth to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Aria looked at him, really looked at him. He was offering her everything she needed, asking for almost nothing in return. It was too good to be true. Why? She asked again. Why go to all this trouble for a stranger? Darius was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer, almost sad. Because I know what it's like to be thrown away. I know what it's like to be told you're worthless, that you're a mistake, that you should never have been born. He turned away from her, staring out at the mountains. My own mother abandoned me on a mountainside because the pack elders said I was cursed. I survived by pure spite and stubbornness. I swore that if I ever had power, I would use it to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. This is about more than politics, Aria realized. You actually care. Don't mistake compassion for weakness, Darius warned, his voice hardening again. I'm offering you a deal, Aria. A good deal. But if you refuse, I'll still give you safe passage to wherever you want to go. I won't force you into anything. Aria closed her eyes, thinking. She could refuse, take whatever money he offered, and disappear. Raise her pups alone, always looking over her shoulder, always wondering if Kieran would come looking for his heirs. Or she could accept. She could give her children a life of privilege and protection. She could become a queen. I have conditions, she said, opening her eyes. Darius raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. First, I want to train. Combat, strategy, politics. If I'm going to be a queen, even a fake one, I want to be able to hold my own. Agreed, Darius said immediately. I'll assign you the best teachers in the kingdom. Second, my pups will know the truth. When they're old enough, they'll know who their biological father is. I won't build our relationship on lies. Darius frowned, clearly not liking this condition, but he nodded. When they're old enough to understand and keep the secret, yes. Agreed. Third, Aria took a deep breath. I want revenge. Darius's eyes gleamed with approval. Now we're talking. What do you have in mind? I want to go back, Aria said, the words tasting like poison and power on her tongue. In 6 years, when the pups are strong and healthy, I want to return to the Crescent Moon Pack. I want Kieran to see what he threw away. I want him to know that he rejected his own children for a lie. And your sister? Darius asked. What about Melissa? Aria's smile was cold and sharp. I want her to watch me standing beside a king. I want her to see that everything she stole from me was worthless compared to what I gained. Vicious, Darius murmured, and he sounded impressed. I like it. Consider it done. He extended his hand. So, do we have a deal? Aria looked at his hand, then up at his face. 6 years. 6 years to heal, to grow strong, to prepare. 6 years to transform from a broken, rejected wolf into a queen. 6 years to make them all regret. She took his hand. We have a deal. Darius's grip was firm, sealing the contract between them. Then welcome to the Lycan kingdom, my queen. I'll have the ceremony arranged for next week. Something grand, something that will make every pack in the region hear about it. That fast? Aria felt a flutter of panic. I need time to prepare. No, you don't, Darius interrupted. You're already perfect for the role. Besides, the faster we marry, the less questions anyone will ask about the timeline of your pregnancy. He had a point. Aria took a shaky breath. Okay, 1 week. Good. Darius headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Aria? Stop thinking of yourself as broken. You were never broken. You were just planted in the wrong soil. Here, you're going to bloom. After he left, Aria sank onto the bed, her mind whirling. What had she just agreed to? Marriage to a Lycan king. A fake marriage, yes, but still a marriage. She was going to be a queen. The girl who'd been thrown away like trash was going to wear a crown. The irony was delicious. She stood and walked to the mirror, studying her reflection. She looked different already. The dark circles under her eyes were fading. The defeated slump in her shoulders was straightening. She placed a hand on her stomach, feeling the slight swell. Your father doesn't know you exist, she whispered to the pups. But that's his loss. You're going to grow up loved, protected, and powerful. And someday, when you're ready, we're going to show him exactly what he threw away." The door opened again, and Alara bustled in with another woman, this one younger and carrying an armful of fabric. "No rest for the soon-to-be queen," Alara announced cheerfully. "This is Sasha, the royal seamstress. We need to start on your wedding dress immediately." "Wedding dress," Aria repeated faintly. "Right. Because I'm getting married in a week." "To the most powerful Lycan in existence," Sasha added, setting down the fabrics and circling Aria with a critical eye. "Every unmated female in the kingdom is going to hate you. It's glorious." "I'm not doing this for glory," Aria said. "I'm doing this for survival." Survival, revenge, glory. They're all the same thing from different angles, Alara said wisely. She guided Aria onto a small platform. "Now hold still. Sasha's going to take your measurements, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about Lycan politics." As the two women fussed over her, measuring and planning and chattering, Aria felt something she hadn't felt in 5 years. Hope. The wedding was a spectacle beyond anything Aria had ever imagined. The Lycan Kingdom's Grand Hall was carved from a single massive crystal that caught and refracted moonlight, making the entire space glow with ethereal silver light. Hundreds of Lycans filled the hall, their eyes gleaming with curiosity and, in some cases, barely concealed hostility as they watched Aria walk down the aisle. She wore a dress of white silk and silver thread that seemed to flow like water with every step. Alara had woven protective charms into the fabric, subtle magic that would shield the pups from any ill wishes or curses. Aria's dark hair was crowned with a circlet of moonstones, and despite her nerves, she held her head high. Darius waited at the altar, looking every inch the powerful king in black and silver ceremonial armor. When their eyes met, he gave her the slightest nod of approval. She wasn't alone in this. As the ceremony progressed, Aria felt the weight of hundreds of stares. She caught whispers, even over the ceremonial music. "Who is she?" "Some common wolf, I heard." "The king could have had anyone. Why choose her?" "I heard she's already pregnant." "Probably trapped him." That last whisper came from a stunning blonde woman in the front row, her lip curled in disgust. Aria met her gaze and didn't look away until the woman shifted uncomfortably. The officiant, an ancient Lycan with silver fur and knowing eyes, raised his hands. "We gather under the full moon to witness the union of King Darius Mooborn and Aria Thornheart. Let those who would speak against this bond come forward now or hold their peace for eternity." The silence was deafening. No one moved. No one dared challenge their king. "Then by the power vested in me by the moon goddess herself, I declare you mates in the eyes of the kingdom and the heavens." Darius took Aria's hand, and she felt a surge of energy pass between them. Not the mate bond, she'd felt that once and this wasn't it, but something else. A contract sealed in magic, witnessed by the moon. He leaned in, his lips brushing her ear. "You're doing perfectly. Now kiss me like you mean it. Give them a show." Aria turned her face to his, and Darius kissed her. It was different from any kiss Kieran had ever given her. There was no passion, no heat, but there was respect, promise, partnership. When they broke apart, the hall erupted in cheers, though Aria noticed several faces that remained stony and cold. The feast afterward was a minefield of politics. Aria sat beside Darius at the high table, picking at her food while nobles and warriors approached to offer their congratulations. Most were genuine. Some were clearly sizing her up, looking for weaknesses. "Your Majesty," a deep voice rumbled. Aria looked up to see a massive Lycan, even larger than Darius, with scars crisscrossing his face and arms. "This is Commander Thorn," Darius introduced. "Head of my military forces." "Congratulations on your mating," Thorn said, though his eyes were cold. "I hope you understand the responsibility that comes with being queen. The Lycan people expect strength from their rulers." "Then they won't be disappointed," Aria replied evenly. "I've survived things that would break most wolves. I'm still standing." Thorn's expression flickered with something that might have been respect. "We shall see." He moved on. "Don't mind him," Darius murmured. "Thorn's loyal to his bones, but he's protective of the kingdom." He'll come around once he sees you're not here to cause problems. And if I do cause problems? Aria asked. Darius's smile was wolfish. Then cause the right kind. The kind that makes us stronger. The evening wore on, and Aria felt exhaustion creeping in. The pregnancy was taking its toll, and the stress of the day wasn't helping. She was about to excuse herself when the blonde woman from the ceremony approached their table. Your Majesties, she purred, curtsying low enough to display her ample cleavage. Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Lady Vivian Silverclaw of the Northern Territories. Lady Vivian, Darius acknowledged with the barest hint of politeness. Congratulations on your mating, Vivian continued, her smile sharp as glass. Though I must admit, we're all quite curious about your bride. She appeared so suddenly, and we know so little about her. There's little to tell, Aria said before Darius could respond. I'm a wolf who caught the king's attention. Sometimes that's all it takes. Indeed. Vivian's eyes narrowed. And the rumors about you being with Pup already? Such fortune, to conceive so quickly. Almost like it was planned. The implication was clear. Aria felt her wolf rise up, angry and defensive, but she forced it down. She'd dealt with mean girls before. Vivian was just a prettier version of Melissa. The moon goddess works in mysterious ways, Aria replied smoothly. I'm sure you'll understand someday, when you find your own mate. The dismissal was subtle but effective. Vivian's smile froze, and several nearby nobles chuckled quietly. Of course, Vivian said through gritted teeth. Enjoy your evening. She swept away in a cloud of expensive perfume and wounded pride. Well done, Darius said quietly. Vivian has been trying to get me to notice her for decades. She doesn't take rejection well. I gathered. Aria rubbed her temples. How much longer do we have to stay? You're exhausted. Darius stood immediately, offering her his hand. Come. I'll make our excuses. He led her from the hall, his hand at the small of her back, playing the devoted mate perfectly. Once they were in the private corridors, away from prying eyes, he released her. Your chambers are in the east wing, he said. Mine are in the west. There's a private passage connecting them for appearances, but the door locks from both sides. You'll have complete privacy. Thank you, Aria said, meaning it. Darius studied her for a moment. You did well tonight. Better than I expected, honestly. You have political instincts. I learned from watching court dynamics in my old pack, Aria admitted. I was never allowed to participate, but I paid attention. Good. Keep paying attention here. Darius gestured down the hallway. Alara will be waiting in your chambers to help you settle in. Rest well, my queen. He turned to leave, then paused. And Aria? Thank you for going through with this. I know it wasn't easy. Before she could respond, he was gone, disappearing down the corridor with inhuman speed. Aria made her way to her chambers, which turned out to be a suite of rooms larger than the entire house she'd grown up in. Alara was indeed waiting, along with two younger servants who helped her out of the elaborate wedding dress. You survived, Alara said cheerfully, helping Aria into a soft nightgown. I was watching from the gallery. You handled Vivian beautifully. She's going to be a problem, isn't she? Aria sank onto the enormous bed. Oh, undoubtedly, Alara agreed. But you're the queen now. You outrank her. She can snipe and scheme all she wants, but at the end of the day, you wear the crown. Aria touched the moonstone circlet still on her head. A crown. She was wearing a crown. 6 months ago, she'd been signing divorce papers on a bedroom floor. Now she was a queen. Get some rest, Alara advised, dimming the lights. Tomorrow your training begins. The king wants you ready for the spring council in 3 months. After everyone left, Aria stood at the window, looking out at the Lycan kingdom that was now hers to protect and rule, even if it was all pretend. She thought about Kieran, probably in bed with Melissa right now, believing he'd made the right choice. She thought about her old pack, probably gossiping about the Barren Luna who'd been cast out. They have no idea, she whispered to the pups growing inside her. They have no idea what's coming. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Aria frowned. It was late, and Alara had already left. Come in, she called cautiously. The door opened to reveal a young woman, perhaps 20, with nervous eyes and a servant's uniform. You're Majesty, forgive the intrusion. I'm Maya, one of the palace messengers. She held out a sealed letter. This arrived for you by urgent courier. Aria took the letter, her heart sinking when she saw the seal. The Crescent Moon Pack. With trembling hands, she broke the seal and read. The letter was from Beta Marcus, one of the few pack members who'd always been kind to her. Lady Aria, I hope this letter finds you well. I write with troubling news. Melissa lost the pup 3 weeks after you left. The pregnancy was false, a product of fertility potions and deception. Alpha Kieran has been searching for you frantically ever since, claiming he made a mistake. He's sent scouts to every neighboring territory. He knows about your marriage to the Lycan king. He's demanded an audience. He's coming for you. Aria's hands shook as she finished reading. Kieran was coming. Aria stood frozen, the letter trembling in her hands. Kieran was coming. The man who'd called her defective, who'd chosen her sister, who'd ripped out her heart and thrown it away, was coming to claim her back. Your Majesty? Maya's worried voice broke through her shock. Are you all right? Should I fetch the king? No, Aria said quickly, then softened her tone. No, thank you, Maya. I'm fine. This is just unexpected news. After Maya left, Aria paced her chambers, her mind racing. False pregnancy. Melissa had faked it. Used potions and deception to steal Kieran, and it had all fallen apart. The irony would have been hilarious if it wasn't so infuriating. She should tell Darius. They had an agreement, a contract. He needed to know that her past was about to come knocking on his door. Literally. Aria found the connecting passage Darius had mentioned and knocked on the locked door. Come, his voice called from the other side. She opened the door to find Darius in a private study, stripped down to just dark pants, his muscular torso bare and covered in scars that told stories of battles won. He looked up from the documents he was reading, surprise flickering across his face. Aria, is everything all right? We have a problem. She handed him the letter. Darius read it, his expression darkening with each line. When he finished, he set it down carefully, his jaw tight. So, the fool realizes what he's lost. He's demanding an audience, Aria said. He's going to come here and try to what? Darius interrupted, his voice cold. Try to take back the mate he publicly rejected and divorced? Try to reclaim the woman who is now bonded to a Lycan king. He stood, and even though Aria knew he wouldn't hurt her, the sheer power rolling off him made her wolf whimper. Let him come. Darius, no. He moved closer, his amber eyes blazing. Listen to me, Aria. You are under my protection now. You are my queen, fake bond or not. If this alpha thinks he can walk into my kingdom and make demands, he's about to learn a very painful lesson about Lycan hierarchy. I don't want you to fight my battles, Aria said, even though part of her desperately did. This is my mess to clean up. This isn't about fighting your battles. Darius's voice softened slightly. This is about showing the werewolf world that you are not to be trifled with. You want revenge? This is your chance. Let him come. Let him see you crowned and protected. Let him see those pups growing inside you, the ones he threw away. He doesn't know they're his, Aria realized. He thinks I got pregnant after I left. And we'll keep it that way, Darius said firmly. As far as anyone knows, those are my heirs. Let him suffer with the knowledge that you moved on so quickly, that you found someone who valued you when he was too blind to see your worth. Aria felt something fierce and hot bloom in her chest. When is he arriving? According to the letter, he'll be here in 3 days, Darius said. Which gives us time to prepare. Tomorrow, we start your combat training. I want you able to defend yourself, not just physically but politically. You think he'll try something? I think desperate men do stupid things. Darius returned to his desk, pulling out a fresh piece of parchment. I'll send a formal response. The Alpha of Crescent Moon Pack will be granted an audience under strict conditions. He comes alone, no guards. He follows Lycan protocol. And he addresses you as queen, or he doesn't address you at all. Aria watched him write, his handwriting bold and decisive. This was what a real partner looked like, she realized. Not someone who controlled you, but someone who stood beside you and helped you stand taller. Thank you, she said quietly. Darius looked up, something unreadable in his eyes. Don't thank me yet. The next few days are going to be brutal. I'm going to push you harder than you've ever been pushed. If you're going to face your past, you need to face it as someone he doesn't recognize. I don't want to be the same person he threw away, Aria. Agreed. I want to be someone he regrets losing. Then get some sleep, Darius advised. Tomorrow at dawn, your real transformation begins. Aria slept fitfully, her dreams filled with Kieran's cold gray eyes and Melissa's mocking laughter. She woke before dawn, her body aching and her mind restless. A servant had laid out training clothes, soft leather pants and a fitted tunic. When Aria emerged from her chambers, Alara was waiting with a knowing smile. The king is already in the training yard, she said. He's been up for hours, setting up your curriculum. The training yard was a massive courtyard surrounded by high walls. Darius stood in the center, and he wasn't alone. Commander Thorn was there, along with 3 other Lycans, all watching her with expressions ranging from skepticism to outright amusement. Your Majesty, Thorn rumbled. The king tells us you wish to learn combat. I already know combat, Aria said, lifting her chin. I was a ranked warrior in my pack before I became Luna. Wolf combat, one of the other Lycans sneered. Cute. This is Lycan training. It's going to break you. Then I'll heal and come back stronger, Aria shot back. That's what I do. Darius smiled, clearly pleased. Good answer. Thorn, she's all yours. Start with the basics. What followed was the most grueling morning of Aria's life. Thorn pushed her through drills that made her muscles scream, combinations that left her gasping for breath. He was ruthless, knocking her down again and again, critiquing every move. You're too slow, he barked as Aria picked herself up from the dirt for the 10th time. You telegraph your attacks. A pup could read you. I'm pregnant, Aria snapped back, frustration boiling over. Maybe ease up. Your enemies won't care about your condition, Thorn said coldly. They'll see it as weakness and exploit it. Now get up and try again. Aria wanted to quit. Every muscle in her body begged her to walk away, to go back to her soft bed and forget this insanity. But then she thought about Kieran's face when he'd called her defective. She thought about standing before him as a victim, broken and begging. No, never again. She got up and attacked with everything she had. Thorn blocked easily, but this time he nodded. Better. Again. They trained until the sun was high overhead. By the time Darius called a halt, Aria was covered in sweat and dirt, her body one massive ache. But she was still standing. Adequate, Thorn grunted, which from him was apparently high praise. You've got potential. Raw, undisciplined, but it's there. Tomorrow we work on politics, Darius said, handing Aria a water skin. You need to know how to navigate court, how to spot lies and manipulation, how to turn an enemy's words against them. Why are you doing all this? Aria asked, too tired to filter her thoughts. You're getting what you wanted. A queen for show. Why push me to actually be one? Darius was quiet for a moment, watching the other Lycans file out of the training yard. Because I've seen what happens when someone accepts the role they're forced into, he said finally. They become hollow. Empty. I don't want a hollow queen, Aria. I want someone who can stand beside me and rule with actual authority, even if it's temporary. You want me to be real, Aria said, understanding. I want you to be powerful, Darius corrected. Power is the only thing that protects you in this world. Everything else is an illusion. Over the next 3 days, Aria barely slept. Mornings were brutal physical training with Thorn. Afternoons were lessons in politics and protocol with Alara and Darius. Evenings were strategy sessions, planning exactly how to handle Kieran's arrival. He'll try to appeal to your emotions, Darius warned during one session. He'll apologize, maybe even cry. He'll tell you it was all a mistake, that he loves you, that he wants you back. And I'll tell him to go to hell, Aria said firmly. Not immediately, Darius advised. Let him talk. Let him dig his own grave. The more desperate he sounds, the more pathetic he looks. You stay calm, collected, queenly. You make him feel small without saying a word. I can do that, Aria said, though her heart raced at the thought. The night before Kieran's arrival, Aria stood in front of her mirror, studying her reflection. 3 days of intensive training had already changed her. She stood straighter, moved with more confidence. The softness that had been in her face was hardening into something fiercer. She placed a hand on her stomach, feeling the slight swell. The pups were growing, getting stronger every day. "Tomorrow you meet your father," she whispered. "Though he won't know it. He threw you away before he even knew you existed. Remember that, when you're old enough to understand. Remember that he chose wrong." A knock came at her door. "Come in," she called. Darius entered, carrying a long black box. "I have something for you," he said, setting it on her bed. "For tomorrow." Aria opened the box and gasped. Inside was a crown, not the delicate moonstone circlet from the wedding, but a true crown of silver and obsidian, fierce and beautiful and undeniably powerful. "You're not just my queen on paper anymore," Darius said. "Tomorrow, you show them all exactly what that means." Kieran arrived at noon, exactly as his letter had stated. Aria watched from the palace balcony as his convoy entered the kingdom gates. 3 vehicles, which meant he'd brought guards despite Darius's explicit instructions to come alone. Typical Alpha arrogance. "He's already breaking protocol," Darius observed, standing beside her. "Want me to send him away?" "No," Aria said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Let him come. Let him see what he's lost, and let him leave knowing he'll never get it back." She was dressed in a gown of midnight blue, the color of royalty in the Lycan kingdom. The fierce crown Darius had given her sat on her head, heavy and solid. Her hair was swept up, exposing the mark on her neck where Darius had bitten her during a private ceremony 2 days ago, a fake mating mark created with magic and ink that looked completely real. Kieran would see it and know she belonged to someone else now. They descended to the throne room, a cavernous space with soaring ceilings and walls lined with ancient weapons. Darius sat on the main throne, and beside it, a second throne had been placed, equal in height and grandeur. Aria's throne. She sat, arranging her skirts, trying not to show how terrified she was. The doors opened. Kieran walked in, and Aria's breath caught despite herself. He looked terrible. His face was gaunt, dark circles under his eyes, his usually immaculate appearance disheveled. He'd lost weight, his clothes hanging looser than they should. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. Good. Behind him came 2 guards, both beta wolves she recognized from the pack. And behind them, shockingly, came Melissa. Her sister looked equally rough, her golden hair dull, her face pale and drawn. "Alpha Kieran of the Crescent Moon Pack," the herald announced. "Here to request an audience with Her Majesty, Queen Aria Mooborn." Kieran's eyes found Aria, and she watched him freeze. He stared at her like he was seeing a ghost, his mouth opening and closing soundlessly. She kept her expression neutral, regal, giving nothing away. "You will bow before the Queen," Commander Thorne barked, stepping forward. Kieran's eyes flashed with anger. "I bow to no one, but you will bow," Darius said softly, but his voice carried the weight of absolute authority, "or you will be removed from this kingdom in pieces. Your choice." The threat hung in the air. Aria watched Kieran's internal struggle, saw the moment his pride warred with his desperation. Slowly, stiffly, he lowered himself to one knee. Melissa and the guards followed suit. "Better," Darius said. "Now, state your business." Kieran's eyes never left Aria. "I've come to speak with my wife." "Your former wife," Aria corrected, speaking for the first time. Her voice was cold, distant. "We were divorced, remember? You signed the papers yourself." "Aria, please," Kieran's voice cracked. "I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. The pregnancy was fake. Melissa lied to both of us." "I know," Aria said simply. "I received word weeks ago." "Then you know I was deceived," Kieran said desperately, rising to his feet despite Thorne's warning growl. "You know I never would have let you go if I'd known the truth. Wouldn't you?" Aria tilted her head. "You called me barren. Defective. Broken. You told me I'd wasted 5 years of your life. Were those lies too, Kieran? Or just the truth you were too cowardly to say until you had a replacement lined up?" "I was angry," Kieran said, taking a step closer. "I was frustrated and I lashed out. But Aria, we were mates. The moon goddess bonded us. That has to mean something." "It meant something," Aria agreed. "Until you severed it. You broke our bond, Kieran. You can't just glue it back together because your backup plan fell through. There's no bond now anyway, Melissa spoke up, her voice bitter. She looked at Aria with pure hatred. You're mated to him now. The Lycan king. How convenient, dear sister. You land on your feet, as always. As always. Aria laughed, the sound sharp and humorless. You mean after you stole my mate, spread lies about me, and watched me get banished? Yes, Melissa. I'm terribly good at landing on my feet after you push me off cliffs. I loved him, Melissa hissed. I loved Kieran for years while you played Luna. You didn't deserve him. And yet here you both are, Aria observed, crawling back to the woman you threw away. How does that feel, Melissa? Knowing that even after you won, you still lost. Melissa's face flushed red, but before she could respond, Kieran spoke again. Aria, please. Just listen. Come back with me. We can start over. I'm pregnant, Aria said flatly. The words dropped like a bomb. Kieran stumbled backward as if she'd physically struck him. What? I'm carrying the king's heirs, Aria continued, placing a protective hand on her barely visible bump. Twins, actually. Due in about 6 months. So you see, Kieran, even if I wanted to come back to you, which I absolutely don't, I'm rather occupied building a family with my actual mate. No, Kieran whispered. No, that's not possible. You're barren. The healers confirmed your healers were wrong, Darius interjected. As our healers discovered within hours of examining the queen. She has a rare condition that shields early pregnancy from magical detection. She was never barren. She was simply misdiagnosed by incompetent fools. The implications sank in. Aria watched Kieran's face cycle through emotions, shock, realization, devastation, rage. How long? He asked hoarsely. How far along are you? Does it matter? Aria asked. No, Kieran said, but his eyes were calculating. No, I suppose not. Except, if you're 6 months from giving birth, and you've only been gone for 3 months, that means the king is extraordinarily virile, Darius interrupted smoothly. We conceived within weeks of meeting. When you know, you know. But Kieran wasn't stupid. Aria saw the math happening behind his eyes, saw the moment he understood. They're mine, he breathed. The pups. They're mine, aren't they? You were already pregnant when I threw you out. The throne room went deathly silent. Aria felt Darius tense beside her, ready to deny it, ready to protect the lie they'd built. But looking at Kieran's devastated face, Aria made a choice. Yes, she said quietly. I was 6 weeks pregnant when you signed the divorce papers. When you called me defective and chose my sister. When you told me I'd never be a mother. She stood, descending the steps from her throne, moving closer to Kieran. I was carrying your heirs, your legacy, everything you claimed to want. And you threw us all away because you were too impatient and too arrogant to wait for proof. Kieran's legs gave out. He collapsed to his knees, his face buried in his hands. No. Aria, I didn't know. You have to believe me, I didn't know. I do believe you, Aria said. Which makes it so much worse. You didn't throw me away because I was pregnant with another man's child, or because I'd betrayed you. You threw me away because you decided I wasn't good enough. And that decision cost you everything. They're my pups, Kieran said, looking up at her with tears streaming down his face. My children. You can't just give them to him. You can't let him claim what's mine. I can do exactly that, Aria said coldly. Because you gave up your rights when you rejected their mother. These pups will be raised as Lycan royalty. They'll be loved, protected, and cherished. They'll never know what it's like to be called worthless or defective. They'll never watch their father choose someone else over them. Aria, please, Kieran begged. Please don't do this. I'll do anything. I'll make Melissa leave. I'll announce to the whole pack that I was wrong. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Just please, don't take my children from me. You took them from yourself, Aria said. She turned her back on him, returning to her throne. This audience is over. You've said what you came to say. Now leave. I'm not leaving without my mate and my pups, Kieran growled, his grief turning to anger. He shifted partially, his eyes flashing gold, his canines extending. I am an alpha. Those are my heirs. I have rights. You have nothing, Darius said, standing. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. You rejected your mate. You severed your bond. You have no claim here. I challenge you, Kieran snarled, fully shifting now. For my mate. For my pups. I challenge you, Lycan King. The throne room erupted. Guards moved forward, Thorn roared orders, and Melissa screamed. But Darius simply laughed. You want to challenge me? He asked, amused. You, a common alpha, want to fight a Lycan King for a mate you threw away? I do, Kieran growled. By the old laws, you cannot refuse. Oh, I'm not refusing, Darius said, descending from his throne. He didn't shift, didn't even remove his formal robes. But let's make the terms clear. When I win, and I will win, you leave this kingdom and never return. You never contact Aria again. You never speak of these pups. You disappear from our lives completely. And when I win, Kieran countered, Aria comes home. With the pups when they're born. No. No, Aria repeated, standing. Those aren't the terms. Both men turned to look at her. Aria, Darius began, but she cut him off. If there's going to be a challenge, it's not your fight, she said, meeting Kieran's eyes. It's mine. The throne room fell silent. Even Thorn looked shocked. You can't be serious, Melissa laughed nervously. You're pregnant. You can't fight. I'm pregnant? Yes. But it's barely showing yet, and I've been training with the best warriors in the Lycan Kingdom, Aria said. I'm more than capable. She turned to Darius. This is my fight. My past to bury. Let me do this. Darius studied her for a long moment, and Aria saw the conflict in his eyes. He wanted to protect her, to fight for her. But he also understood what she needed. This wasn't about winning. It was about proving she was no longer the woman Kieran had broken. Very well, Darius said finally. He looked at Kieran. You heard your former mate. She accepts your challenge. First blood or submission. No killing blows. Agreed. Kieran looked between them, clearly torn. He didn't want to fight Aria, that much was obvious. But his pride and his desperation were warring inside him. Agreed, he said finally. But Aria, please don't make me do this. Just come home. We can forget all of this happened. That's your problem, Kieran, Aria said, removing her crown and handing it to Alara, who had appeared at her side. You always thought you could just erase your mistakes. But some things can't be forgotten. Some wounds don't heal. She walked down to the center of the throne room. The crowd that had gathered pulled back, creating a wide circle. Kieran shifted back to human form, standing across from her in just his pants, his muscular body tense and ready. I don't want to hurt you, he said. Then submit, Aria replied. Because I have no problem hurting you. She shifted. The transformation was smooth, effortless, days of intensive training having honed her wolf to perfection. She was smaller than Kieran's wolf form, but faster, leaner. Thorn's brutal training had taught her that sometimes speed mattered more than size. Kieran shifted with a roar, his massive gray wolf charging at her immediately. He was trying to end it quickly, to pin her and force a submission before she could get hurt. How typical. How predictable. Aria dodged left, letting his momentum carry him past her. She snapped at his flank as he passed, her teeth catching fur but not drawing blood. Kieran spun, faster than she expected, his jaws aiming for her shoulder. She rolled under his attack, coming up behind him and launching herself at his back legs. This time her teeth found purchase, biting down hard enough to draw blood. First blood. Hers. The crowd gasped. Kieran yelped and spun, throwing her off. She landed in a crouch, her lips pulled back in a snarl. Yield, she growled, the word coming out distorted through her wolf form, but understandable. Never, Kieran snarled back. He came at her again, but this time with more caution. They circled each other, two wolves who had once been mates, now enemies in all but name. Kieran lunged. Aria met him head-on this time, their bodies colliding with a force that rattled her bones. They tumbled, biting and clawing, each trying to gain the upper hand. Kieran was stronger, but Aria was angrier. Every humiliation, every cruel word, every moment of despair she'd suffered because of him fueled her now. She fought dirty, the way Thorn had taught her. She went for his eyes, his throat, his vulnerable spots. She didn't fight like someone who wanted to win. She fought like someone who had nothing left to lose. They broke apart, both panting, both bleeding from minor wounds. Kieran's wolf was favoring his back leg where she'd first bitten him. Aria's shoulder ached where he'd gotten his jaws around it. Please, Kieran's human voice came from the wolf, a desperate plea. Please stop this. I love you. And that's when Aria realized the truth. She didn't love him. Not anymore. Maybe she never really had. Maybe she just loved. The idea of being chosen, of being wanted, of having a place to belong. But real love didn't abandon you. Real love didn't call you defective. Real love didn't make you feel broken. I don't love you, she said, shifting back to human form. She stood there, bloody and bruised but unbroken, staring at the wolf that had once been her everything. I don't even hate you anymore. Nothing. You're nothing to me, Kieran. Kieran shifted back, and the look on his face was more devastated than any physical wound she could have inflicted. You don't mean that. I do, Aria said. You wanted me to come back? Look at me. Really look at me. I'm not the same woman you threw away. That woman died the night you rejected her. I'm someone new now. Someone stronger. Someone who doesn't need you. But the pups, Kieran said desperately. They're mine. You can't deny me my own children. Watch me, Aria said. She turned to Darius. I want the bond formalized. Magically. Legally. I want these pups claimed as yours in every way that matters. Aria, no. Kieran surged forward, but Thorn was faster, grabbing him and holding him back. Think about what you're doing. I have thought about it, Aria said. I've thought about nothing else for 3 days. These pups deserve a father who will love them unconditionally, who will never abandon them, who will never call them worthless. That's not you, Kieran. That will never be you. She walked to Darius, taking his hand. Can it be done? Can you claim them magically? Yes, Darius said, studying her face. But Aria, you need to be sure. This isn't something that can be undone. Once I claim them, they'll carry Lycan traits. They'll be bonded to me as surely as if I'd fathered them. There's no going back. I'm sure, Aria said. I've never been more sure of anything. Darius nodded. He placed his hand on her stomach, and Aria felt warmth spread through her, different from before. This was deeper, more primal. Ancient magic stirring to life. By the power of the old laws, by the magic of the Lycan bloodline, I claim these pups as my own, Darius said, his voice resonating with power. Let their blood sing with mine. Let their souls know me as father. Let no one, not Pack, not law, not even the moon goddess herself, deny my claim. Light blazed from where his hand touched her stomach. Aria gasped as she felt the magic take hold, felt something fundamental shift inside her. The pups stirred, responding to the claim, accepting it. When the light faded, Darius removed his hand. It's done, he said quietly. They're mine now. In every way that matters. Kieran let out a howl of pure anguish, the sound so broken that even Aria felt a pang of sympathy. But she crushed it. He'd made his choice. Now he had to live with it. Get him out of here, Darius ordered. Take him to the border and make sure he understands. If he ever returns to this kingdom, if he ever tries to contact the queen or claim these pups, I will kill him. No challenge. No mercy. Just death. Thorn dragged Kieran toward the doors. The former Alpha didn't fight, didn't resist. He was a broken man, and everyone could see it. Aria. Melissa's voice rang out. She'd been so quiet Aria had almost forgotten she was there. How could you? How could you take his children from him? The same way you took my mate, Aria replied coldly. The same way you watched me suffer and smiled. Consider us even. We're not even, Melissa spat. I'll make you pay for this. I swear, you'll do nothing, Aria interrupted. Because if you try, if you so much as breathe a threat in my direction, I'll remember that you're my sister. And I'll show you exactly the kind of mercy you showed me. Which is to say, none at all. Melissa's face went pale. She looked at Kieran, clearly hoping he'd defend her, but he couldn't even look at her. He'd lost everything, and part of him knew it was Melissa's fault. Guards escorted them out. The massive doors closed, and the throne room erupted in conversation. Aria swayed, suddenly exhausted. Darius caught his arm around her waist. "Easy," he murmured. "You've had enough excitement for one day. Let's get you back to your chambers." "Did I do the right thing?" Aria asked as he led her away from the crowd. "Taking his children from him? You protected your pups from a man who abandoned their mother," Darius said. "That's not wrong. That's love." Back in her chambers, Ilara fussed over her wounds while Aria sat numbly, processing everything that had happened. She'd faced Kieran. She'd fought him. She'd won. So why did she feel so empty? "Because closure isn't always satisfying," Darius said from the doorway, as if reading her thoughts. "Sometimes revenge just leaves you hollow." "I thought I'd feel triumphant," Aria admitted. "I thought watching him break would make me feel powerful. And instead I just feel tired," Aria said. She placed a hand on her stomach. "I took his children from him. What if, years from now, the pups hate me for it? Then you'll explain that you made the choice you thought was best with the information you had," Darius said. He sat beside her, uncharacteristically gentle. "You'll tell them the truth. That their biological father rejected all of you before he knew they existed. That you gave them a life of safety and love instead of one of uncertainty and resentment. And if they want to meet him?" Darius was quiet for a moment. "Then when they're adults, old enough to make their own choices, we'll allow it. But not before then." 6 years later. The Lycan kingdom had never seen a celebration like this. The entire palace was decorated for the twins' 5th birthday, banners of silver and blue hanging from every surface, the great hall filled with wolves and Lycans from every territory. Aria stood on the balcony overlooking the festivities, watching her children play below. Ethan and Elena. Her perfect, beautiful pups. Ethan had his father's gray eyes, Kieran's eyes, though he didn't know it. He was serious and thoughtful, always asking questions, always wanting to understand the world around him. Elena was fierce and wild, her dark hair always tangled from running through the forests, her laugh loud and fearless. They were everything Aria had dreamed of and more. "They're getting big," Darius said, joining her on the balcony. Over the past 6 years, their arrangement had shifted. They were still not truly mated, still maintaining separate chambers, but they'd become friends. Real friends. Partners in the truest sense. "Too big," Aria agreed, smiling as Elena tackled her brother, both of them dissolving into giggles. "Soon they'll be asking to start real combat training." "Thorne's been pestering me about that for months," Darius chuckled. "He says they've got potential." "They've got something," Aria said. The magical claiming had worked almost too well. Both pups showed Lycan traits, faster healing, enhanced strength, the signature amber glow in their eyes when their wolves surfaced. No one questioned their parentage. No one except Aria knew the truth. "You've done well," Darius said quietly. "As a mother. As a queen. You've exceeded every expectation." "I had a good teacher," Aria replied. She meant it. Darius had kept every promise. He'd protected them, provided for them, and treated the twins as his own. He'd never once held their true parentage against them. "Your Majesty." A guard rushed onto the balcony, his face urgent. "There's a situation at the gates. A wolf from the Crescent Moon Pack requesting asylum." Aria's blood ran cold. "Who?" "A young woman. She says her name is Lyra. She says she's Beta Marcus's daughter, and she's fleeing Alpha Kieran's rule." "Marcus," Aria breathed. "The Beta who'd warned her about Kieran's search 6 years ago. Let her in. Bring her to my private study." 10 minutes later, Aria faced a young woman barely 20, thin and frightened, with bruises on her arms and terror in her eyes. "Your Majesty," Lyra said, dropping into a bow. "Thank you for seeing me. My father said if I ever needed help, to come to you." "What happened?" Aria asked, gesturing for her to sit. "It's Alpha Kieran," Lyra said, her voice shaking. "After you left, after he lost the pups, he went mad. He's ruled the pack with paranoia and rage. Anyone who questions him disappears. My father tried to challenge his decisions, tried to bring some sanity back. Kieran killed him. In front of the whole pack." Aria's hand flew to her mouth. "Marcus is dead?" 3 days ago, Lyra confirmed, tears streaming down her face. And Kieran said I was next. He said my father's bloodline was tainted with treason. I barely escaped with my life. Where's Melissa? Aria asked. The former Luna Melissa is still there, Lyra said. But she's not his mate anymore. He rejected her a year after you left, blamed her for everything. She stays because she has nowhere else to go. But your majesty, it's worse than that. What do you mean? Kieran's been obsessed, Lyra said. With you. With the pups. The entire pack knows the story, how you were pregnant when he threw you out, how the Lycan king claimed them. Kieran's study is covered in drawings, plans. He's been searching for a way to get them back. Aria felt ice flood her veins. Get them back how? I don't know the details, Lyra admitted. But I heard him talking to his new beta. He said something about the spring council meeting. About how all the leaders would be gathered in one place. About how it was the perfect opportunity. The spring council. It was in 3 days, a gathering of every major pack and Lycan clan too. Discuss territorial disputes and treaties. Both Aria and Darius were required to attend, and they'd planned to bring the twins, to introduce them formally to the werewolf political world. He's going to try something at the council, Aria realized. Thank you, Lyra. You're under my protection now. No one will hurt you here. After Lyra left, Aria immediately found Darius and told him everything. His expression darkened with every word. Cancel our attendance, he said immediately. If Kieran's planning something, we can't, Aria interrupted. If we don't show, it'll look like weakness. Like we're afraid of him. Besides, he'll just try again at the next gathering or the one after that. We need to end this. You want to confront him, Darius said. Publicly. At the council. I want to give him what he wants, Aria said. A chance to see his children. To make his case. And I want everyone to witness him failing. Darius studied her. You've been planning this. For 6 years, Aria admitted. I knew this day would come eventually. Kieran's not the type to let go. I want to end it on my terms, with witnesses, with the entire werewolf world watching. It's risky, Darius warned. If he has allies, if he's planned something, then we'll be ready, Aria said firmly. I'm not the broken wolf he threw away anymore. I'm a queen. And it's time I acted like one. The Spring Council was held in neutral territory, a massive stone amphitheater that had hosted werewolf gatherings for centuries. Hundreds of alphas, betas, and nobles filled the seats, all eyes on the center floor where disputes would be heard and decisions made. Aria entered with Darius at her side, the twins walking between them. Both children wore formal clothes, silver and blue, marking them as Lycan royalty. They'd been coached on proper behavior, but Aria could see Elena's eyes darting around with excitement, Ethan's hand gripping hers tightly. There are so many people, Ethan whispered. It's okay, Aria assured him. Just stay close to me and your father. She'd started calling Darius their father years ago. It was easier than explaining the complicated truth. They took their seats in the royal section, elevated above the rest. Aria scanned the crowd and found him immediately. Kieran sat in the Crescent Moon Pack section, and Lyra had been right. He looked terrible. Gaunt, haunted, his eyes fixed on the twins with an intensity that made Aria's protective instincts flare. Beside him sat Melissa, looking equally miserable, her beauty faded, her posture defeated. Mommy, that man is staring at us, Elena said, noticing Kieran. Who is he? No one important, Aria said, but her voice must have betrayed something because Darius placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. The council proceedings began, various disputes and treaties discussed and voted on. Aria barely paid attention, her focus on Kieran, waiting for him to make his move. It came during the open forum period, when any alpha could bring forward a grievance. Kieran stood. I, Alpha Kieran of the Crescent Moon Pack, request to address the council regarding a matter of stolen heirs and false claims. The amphitheater went silent. Every eye turned to either Kieran or Aria. The council elder, an ancient wolf named Aldrich, frowned. Alpha Kieran, this is highly irregular. What specifically are you claiming? 6 years ago, my mate was pregnant with my heirs, Kieran said, his voice carrying across the space. She left our pack and was taken in by the Lycan king, who used magic to falsely claim my pups as his own. I demand the council investigate this claim and return my children to their rightful father." Gasps and whispers erupted. Aria felt Ethan press closer to her side, frightened by the sudden attention. Elena, characteristically, looked more curious than scared. "Your Majesty," Elder Aldrich turned to Aria. "How do you respond to these accusations?" Aria stood, drawing herself up to her full height. She'd prepared for this moment. She was ready. "Alpha Kieran is partially correct," she said, and the crowd gasped again. "I was pregnant when I left the Crescent Moon Pack. However, he neglects to mention several crucial facts." She descended from the royal box, walking to the center floor. Darius moved to follow, but she shook her head. This was her fight. "Alpha Kieran rejected me as his mate," Aria said, her voice clear and strong. "He signed divorce papers. He severed our bond. He did this while I was carrying his children, though neither of us knew it at the time." She turned to face Kieran directly. "You threw me away because you believed I was barren. You chose my sister, who faked a pregnancy to steal my place. And when that lie was revealed, when you realized your mistake, you came crawling back. But it was too late. They're still my pups," Kieran shouted. "My blood. You can't just give them to someone else." "I can and I did," Aria said coldly. "Because you lost the right to call yourself their father the moment you rejected their mother. King Darius claimed them through ancient magic, yes. But more importantly, he claimed them through love, through protection, through being there every single day of their lives." She gestured to the twins, still in their seats. "Those children don't know you. They don't need you. They have a father who would die for them. What can you offer that compares to that?" "I'm their real father," Kieran insisted. "Blood doesn't lie." "Then let's ask them," Aria said. She turned to Elder Aldrich. "The twins are 5 years old enough to speak for themselves. Let the council hear from them." Aldrich looked uncertain, but nodded. "Very well. Bring forward the children." Darius brought Ethan and Elena down to the center floor. Both children looked tiny in the massive amphitheater, but neither seemed afraid anymore. They stood beside their mother, waiting. "Children," Elder Aldrich said gently. "This man claims to be your father. Do you know him?" "No, sir," Ethan said politely. "We've never seen him before." "But I am your father," Kieran said, dropping to his knees before them. "I know you don't remember me, but I loved your mother. I loved you before you were even born." "Our father is King Darius," Elena said, confused. "Everyone knows that." "But I'm your real father," Kieran insisted desperately. "Your blood father." "Doesn't that mean anything?" Ethan looked up at Aria, then at Darius, then back at Kieran. When he spoke, his voice was clear and firm, wise beyond his 5 years. "My mom says that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when it's hard." He took Elena's hand. "King Darius is our father because he chose to be. You're just the man who made our mom cry." The words hit Kieran like a physical blow. He rocked back on his heels, his face crumbling. Around the amphitheater, Aria heard murmurs of agreement. She'd won. Not through violence or legal maneuvering, but through the simple truth spoken by a child. "The council has heard enough," Elder Aldrich declared. "Alpha Kieran, your claim is denied. The children belong with Queen Aria and King Darius, who have raised them with love and care. You are ordered to cease all attempts to contact them or their mother. This matter is closed." Kieran didn't move. He knelt there in the center of the amphitheater, broken and defeated, while the council moved on to other business. Aria gathered her children and returned to her seat. As they left the amphitheater after the council concluded, Aria looked back once. Kieran was still there, still kneeling, Melissa beside him trying to get him to stand. They looked like what they were, two people who had destroyed their own lives through selfishness and lies. Aria felt no triumph. Just peace. "Are you okay?" Darius asked as they walked to their carriage. "I'm perfect," Aria said, squeezing her children's hands. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." That night, after the twins were asleep, Aria stood in her chambers looking out at the kingdom. Darius knocked and entered, 2 glasses of wine in his hands. To closure, he said, handing her one. To closure, Aria agreed. They drank in comfortable silence. Thank you, Aria said finally. For everything. For saving me. For claiming them. For being the father they deserved. Thank you for trusting me, Darius replied. For letting me be part of your family, even if it started as a contract. Started as, Aria repeated, catching the past tense. Does that mean it's something different now? Darius met her eyes. I think it's been something different for a while. I think we've just been too scared to acknowledge it. Aria's heart raced. Darius, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I'm just saying that somewhere along the way, this stopped being pretend for me. You're not just my queen for show. You're my friend. My partner. And if you ever wanted it to be more, I would be honored. Aria set down her wine glass. She thought about Kieran, about the man she'd thought she loved who had broken her. She thought about Darius, who had been there for 6 years, who had never asked for anything, who had loved her children as his own. She thought about what love actually meant. Ask me again in a year, she said softly. When I'm sure it's real and not just gratitude. When I know my heart has healed enough to give properly. Darius smiled. I can wait. I'm very patient. 1 more year, Aria agreed. And then we'll see if we can make this real. She looked out at the kingdom, at the life she'd built from the ashes of her old one. She'd been rejected, broken, thrown away. And she'd become a queen. Not because a man had claimed her, but because she'd claimed herself. The Barren Luna had returned with twins and a Lycan king. But more importantly, she'd returned as someone who knew her own worth. And that was the greatest revenge of all. The end. If this story made you feel everything, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Was it when Aria fought Kieran? When the twins chose Darius? When she finally found peace? Let me know in the comment section, lovelies. Remember, your worth isn't determined by those who throw you away, it's determined by how you rise after they're gone. I will be back in a few days with another story that'll have you on the edge of your seat. Until then, stay strong, stay fierce, and never let anyone make you feel less than the queen you are. Bye.